Hello, I'm Michael Graham with New Hampshire Journal. Welcome to the New Hampshire Institute of Politics and the NH Journal 1st Congressional District Republican Primary Debate. We're so glad that you're watching. And thank you again to Manchester Public Television Service for carrying our debates here. The goal of this debate is very simple. We want to help Republican primary voters in the 1st Congressional District figure out which candidate is the best for them. What that means is you hear some topics that we don't cover. For example, climate change, because as our readers tell us all the time, that's not a top-tier issue for Republican primary voters the way it is on the Democratic side of the aisle. But what we will do is you'll hear topics that are clearly important to Republicans. And so that's why we are so glad that you're here, and that's why we are glad that our candidates are here. Joe Kelly Levasseur, you can applaud. Russell Prescott, Holly Noveletsky, and Chris Bright. The rules are simple. The first to 100 wins. No, I'm kidding. The rules are simple. Everyone gets a minute. If your name is mentioned by another candidate, you get 30 seconds to rebut. We'll have opening statements and closing statements. So why don't we start right now with our opening statement from Alderman John Kelly Levasseur.
Joe Kelly Levasseur.
Joe Kelly Levasseur. Thank you. There it is. The screw up. There it is.
Thank you, everybody, for having me. Thank you for New Hampshire Journal for hosting this event. Thank you to the candidates that are here with me today. At an important time in the history of our country, as the country has taken a very sharp left turn under Joe Biden and the Democrats and their woke mind virus issues that they have spread across America. I am a 7-term alderman at large for the city of Manchester. I've been in the public arena since 1999, a quarter of a century, when I first won my first race for alderman. I've been called upon by the state party to run for state senate. I've run for register of probate. I ran for state rep last election cycle. I've always been a ballot filler, but always put my heart into these races and to make sure that Democrats at least had an opponent. In 2016, I ran against, I had a primary race against Jim Adams for executive council. I won the primary and then lost a narrow, had a narrow loss to Chris Pappas in 2016. He's had $300,000, I had 21, and it was a very close race. So, that means stop? Okay.
President Biden says the way to fight high prices, his strategy has been to give people more money to spend. In other words, we're going to give you money for green tech, and so you can buy a green tech product, and that's the answer to inflation. Or college student loan debt, more money for people. In other words, make it easier for you to buy things that are now more expensive. If you were in Congress, what would you be doing about inflation? And specifically, what would you be doing about inflation that Representative Chris Pappas isn't?
Has Chris Pappas failed to do or not done? Chris Pappas has failed the state of New Hampshire in a variety of ways. We have a housing crisis in our state. City of Manchester has been inundated with homeless people, hundreds of homeless people. We had to build a shelter to put people in. We have 2 shelters in Manchester. All across our district, we have homeless people all over the place. We have people with mental health and mental illness issues that are not being housed. In Manchester, we have 5 low-income, federally managed and owned properties. When they were spending trillions and trillions of dollars on who knows what, they weren't spending anything on low-income housing. They could have put 5 more buildings, hopefully not all in Manchester, spread them around our district and gotten people off the streets. He has failed us on electric rates. What he's really failed us at is not criticizing the Democrats, the president. He's been invisible, he's been quiet, he's never argued with his own guys, he doesn't disagree with his own guys, he just sits there as a puppet and a bootlicker for Biden.
There's a topic that comes up whenever New Hampshire Journal talks to Republicans about the 1st Congressional District, and it is, why don't we win? It's been a decade. This year, if Republicans don't win, it'll have been a decade since a Republican was elected in the 1st Congressional District. So 2 questions for all of you, starting with you. Why do you think that's true, and why are you the candidate on the stage tonight who can fix that in 2024?
How are we going to win that seat back? I can tell you, we have a perfect example. Manchester, New Hampshire. For the first time since 1998, the board is red. We have 7 Republican aldermen and a Republican mayor. And for the first time since 1998, we have a Republican chairman, Joseph Kelly Levasseur. And you know why we turned red? Because we had Joyce Craig as our mayor. Please do not vote for her to be the governor of this state. what she did to Manchester in 6 years, you think we're the bluest city in the whole state. I think we're the bluest city in the state, and she turned us red because she did such a horrible job. We have shown that the red wave is coming because our city is blue, and we won in areas we hadn't won in 24, 26 years. The red wave is coming because we've already had a red wave right here in Manchester. And there's no one they fear more. There's no one Chris Pappas, the invisible man, fears more as Joe Levasseur. I came very close in 2016. These guys coming out on the seacoast, they're losing by 9, 10%. Not going to happen this time. This is the year we win.
New Hampshire residents pay some of the highest rates for electricity in the country. What would you do as a member of Congress to drive those costs down? And do you believe that offshore wind is part of the solution?
Offshore wind, no, I'm not a big believer in that. I think those windmills, when I drive up north, sticking up over the mountains is just not attractive at all. And I don't think they produce what is necessary. I've been looking into these micro nuclear stations that there was one that was just done, I think it was New Vale or New Kale. It was a company that was just given in 2023 a patent. They're small. They last for 10 years with only one shot of plutonium in there. These are the types of things that I think in New Hampshire we could use to help us bring down electricity. I want you to know I owned a restaurant for 35 years. I started when I was 25 years old. I had Joe Kelly's on Elm Street for 23 years, and then I moved down to Theo's for 10 years. If anybody knows about electricity and electric bills, when I sold that 5 years ago, my utility costs were $25,000. The people that are renting from me now, their utility costs are $50,000. You know what happens when those bills go up? They pass the prices on to the consumers. Prices go up, costs go up. I've been a small businessman my whole entire life. I'm currently a self-employed lawyer. I've been a lawyer for 23 years. If anybody knows about cost, electricity, and how to run business,
Thank you. Where are you on Donald Trump? Because that was a top issue for primary voters. Here we are 6 years later. Where are you on Donald? It has not changed a bit. He's still the center of the Republican Party. So very quickly, each one of you, who did you support in the First in the Nation primary this year? And when people ask you, so where are you on Trump? What do you tell them?
In 2016, I hosted Donald Trump at my restaurant, Theo's. Anderson Cooper was there. It was a great town hall. I got to meet him. My wife was there. We had a bunch of people. It was a really, really cool setting. I got to see him in person, and he's got a great sense of humor. He's very competitive. He's very passionate. Of course, I supported him there. In this next round, I voted for him, of course, in 2020, and then for this last election, Russell doesn't want to say who voted for in the primary. I not only supported Donald Trump, I spoke at his rally. I was one of the 5 speakers that got to introduce the president. It was an amazing experience. I threw a lot of red meat out there, and when it was all done, everyone was asking me to run for Congress and whatever. And I got to sign a lot of autographs, meet a lot of people. But the most important thing is that I'm not only passionate about the man, I think we've seen now, are you better off 4 years, than you are today 4 years ago? We know we're not. We know how good of a job Donald Trump can do. And I know when I get down there with him, we'll have this place cleaned up within a year. This country will be back on the right track.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is
By the way, I have Trump or bust on my signs.
President Biden, since he's taken office, border security officials say they've been witnessing a record number of illegal crossings along the northern border. We've also seen several high-profile crimes across the border in Massachusetts committed by illegal immigrants allowed into the U.S. by the Biden administration. As a member of Congress, what would you do to address this problem?
Well, you get rid of Mr. Invisible, who has done nothing about our northern border, which we wouldn't have even believed that would be happening in our lifetimes. I never would have thought that occurred. 12,000 illegals coming across New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire is a scary thing. My understanding is there are 15,000 illegals living amongst us here just in New Hampshire. What would I do? I just go back to the policies that the President Trump had in place. I trusted him on what he was able to do. He made some good deals. He's a good deal maker. Finish that wall, and I think that will do the trick and help us. But what are we going to do about what we have in place right now is going to be the major problem we're going to be dealing with once Trump gets in office.
So I'm going to follow up with this question. So the Republican Party's new platform with the convention coming up was released today. It's not finally voted on, there's another vote, but it's likely to finish. And Donald Trump was directly involved in putting it together. And we know because many sections of it are in all caps. And one of the all caps is that he's going to, quote, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. If you're in Congress and there's a bill to carry out the largest deportation operation in American history, will you support it? Why or why not?
Yes, Mr. Indivisible should call Joe Biden, but just not after 8 p.m. at night. The first thing that we need to do, if I get down to Congress, of course, I'll support the president in his plan to deport illegals, but we have to focus on MS-13. We have to focus on the criminals. We know, or we believe, that over 1 million of the people that have come into this country are criminals, or with a criminal past, or with a criminal record, being let out by countries who want to get rid of the people in their jails. They're saving tons and tons of money, not having to feed. They don't have to manage them. They don't have to pay for all of the things they have to do to take care of prisoners. So here's your ticket out of here. Get down in United States and go have a fun time in Chicago, New York, the big cities. LA, they've turned those places into Crazyville. So he did a really good job, and I was surprised how good of a job he was able to do by going after the MS-13 gangs. And I think he has a formula for it. I think he puts the old people back into place. We'll be able to get that under control. That is the first priority we have to deal with. People should not feel scared to go outside of their neighborhoods or visit New York City anymore.
Okay, Joe, following up on that last topic, if you found yourself, on a debate stage with Representative Pappas and you were allowed to ask him one question, what would it be and why?
First of all, so that means they let him come out without his diaper on, so that's great. And by the way, to cure all of this immigration stuff, let's try E-Verify. What's the first question? I've been thinking about this. You read my mind. It's something I think about every day. The first question, I'm going to look over. He's going to be visible. It's going to shock me. I'm going to see him, and I'm going to say, who the hell's running the White House? You know, tell us. Who is really running the White House? We know Joe Biden isn't. He's been on vacation 40% of the time that he's been in office, sitting on the beach, looking like Bernie's, the weekend at the Bernie's, laying on that, I mean, he looks like a dead guy on the beach. Who's running this country? Because I want to know. Is it Obama? Is it who? Obviously, it's not Joe Biden. I don't think he's that crazy, but whoever the hell he has running the White House is. And the woke mind virus that is spread through this country is because of whoever is running that White House. And we need to find out what's going on and who's running the place. I just want to give Hawley credit for that last round. You won that hands down. If I get a chance to debate Pappas, I'm going to ask him that same question. How in the hell do you sleep at night? DeSantis. That would be my first choice, but because they live in the same state,
right,
he can't go. So I'm going to ask Ron to move up to New Hampshire. He can be their vice president. He's ready on day one if anything happens.
Your second other emergency, Michael Graham showed up at your house. Oh. You have to take him out for lunch or dinner at a restaurant. No home cooking. You got to spend some money on me. Where in the 1st Congressional District do you take me?
Well, because of the Biden economy, we're not going out. I can't afford you, but you know where I would take you? I'll take you to Market Basket. You can get a chicken, a nice roasted chicken for $5. We get a couple of sides, 2 glasses of water, 25 cents each with ice. We sit right there. We have a beautiful table. We can watch all the people coming in and out of Market Basket. Thank God for Market Basket, folks.
How would you describe the affordable housing situation in the 1st District, and what role, if any, should the federal government play in addressing it?
Yeah, I firmly believe we really blew it. I mean, we had trillions and trillions of dollars coming out during COVID. We had, I don't know, the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the biggest lie that ever happened. That money could have come into New Hampshire, and it surely could have come into Manchester. I've been a 7-term Republican alderman in that city, and I've lived with what we've had for a crisis. Under Joyce Craig, they put up safe stations, so we were pulling people in from all over the state coming into Manchester saying, we'll take care of your needs. We have 3 hospitals, we have 2 shelters, we have we have access to a lot of drugs. Affordable housing is the #1 issue in this state. I just saw a poll, and it's really high up there. People who are living in apartments are getting killed because the rents have gone up. But when you bring 10 million illegals into this country, where do you think they're moving into? 6 of them are renting an apartment, splitting the rent 6 ways. Well, that pushes 2 other people out, or another American out of it, or a citizen of New Hampshire out. We have to do a better job. A priority for me as a congressman, Bring money in from the federal government and bring in low-income, affordable housing for our seniors and our veterans
Russell
first.
President, the first Republican National Committee platform that does not call for federal restrictions on abortion. President Trump has said that pro-life politics may be hurting the GOP politically. What is your stance on the pro-life issue, and would you support a federal law regulating abortion in all 50 states if you're a member of Congress?
To me, partial birth abortion does not start after 6 months. It starts after the 15th week. I feel bad for the people who are running for state senate and governor right now. They have to deal with that issue. It's a polarizing issue. I think it's why we didn't do so well in the midterms. I hope that women have come to realize that abortion should not be a single reason why you should vote for a candidate. If you're going to vote for women's rights, you should be voting for women's rights so that men can't be playing in women's sports or your kids' high school sports. I hope that's what women will come to. Abortion is everywhere around us. You can go to Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and in this state you can get an abortion, unfortunately, up to 6 months. That's my personal belief, but as a federal, if I get elected to Congress, I will not vote to take away states' rights. So I will stay where we are and leave it to the states under the ruling of the Supreme Court, and that's what I'll stand by.
So we have time for one last 30-second lightning round, then your closing statements, which will start again with JKL Levasseur. 30 seconds. Is President Joe Biden physically and mentally fit to serve another 4-year term? And what do you say when people ask you about it?
Of all the hoaxes that have been thrown at Donald Trump, the real hoax has been the Democrat Party with this guy Biden in there. We've known for a long time he's just not prepared for the job. He just can't handle the job. I wouldn't let that guy use a butter knife to butter his own toast.
Yeah. So your final statements, we'll start with JKL Levasseur and go down, and you'll get the last word, Chris Bright.
My name is Joseph Kelly Levasseur, Levasseur4Congress.com. I've been in the political arena for 25 years. I've owned a restaurant for 35 years. I've been a self-employed attorney for 23 years. I sat on the planning board for 4 years. Your problems are problems that are my problems. I know what it costs to run a business. I know what it costs for utilities. I know how hard it is to get through the government to get things done. I know that you have to get a variance to get a shed on your lawn without the government getting involved in your life. I'm the guy that people call. I have won 7 straight elections in a blue city as a Republican, not a milquetoast Republican, a Republican that is Trump tough, who calls it as it is, and has always protected the taxpayers and the people who own small businesses in my city. I have taken thousands and thousands of calls and helped thousands and thousands of people in this city. I am ready on day one to go to Congress and do the same great job that I've done for the city of Manchester as I will do in D.C. You will love me as your congressman, I promise you.
Applause is welcome. And a round of applause for all of the candidates, please, if you don't mind. You did a great job.